All right, so I wanted to do a follow-up video on this Eastman guitar. It's an E6D, and you might have seen the previous video. I compared this one to the Blue Ridge. I'm not getting a focus there. This is an E6D, there it is. Quite a new guitar. It's got the Sitka spruce, and you can see it's got some nice grain, a little bit of yellow sort of tone through the wood grain. And this guitar is not the torrefied or aged top. It's just the regular one. And as you know, in recent times Eastman have started supplying these nice pick guards, which they never used to do. And I want to show you the back, which I did last time. The reason I bought this guitar was for the back. Look at that. I always admired the Eastmans I saw in the early days. You saw this beautiful figured mahogany. And so when I went to the shop to buy this, I was comparing it to E10Ds, there was an E20D, there were the torrefied tops, there was an E8, Sitka and Rosewood. But I've got to say, I thought, hey, this one sounded just as nice as the others. And then it had this beautiful back. And also, of course, this is the cheapest Eastman in the E traditional range. So here's the neck. It's got the nice volute on it, and it's got these tuners as well, which are very, very nice. So yes, it's a good guitar, but I do have a bone to pick with Eastman, and the bone I'm talking about is the saddle. So if you've bought guitars in the past, and like me, you buy and sell, this is the critical part of the instrument, really, if you think about it. The strings come down, break over the saddle and over this, which is in the bridge, and then they come down into the guitar. And of course, this creates the downforce, and it creates the volume and power of the guitar. And what always happens is, as the guitar ages, of course, all that tension in the string is going to just start to lift the neck up like this, and your action starts to come high on the 12th fret. Now I've got these strings very loose. I'm about to take them off, but just before I did, I wanted to tell you what's happened here. And I've got a string action gauge here, and basically if you put this like so, the spec that you want to achieve here, or what Martin's recommended, is 6/64 or 3/32 inches on the low E, and maybe 5 on the high E. Okay, so when I got this guitar, I took this saddle out, sanded it down a little bit, and I got it down to that action. However, now, a few months later, I'm measuring 8 on the low E and about 6 or so or 7 on the top, which is just getting to a point where it is too high. So, of course, I'm going to change the strings. That's why they're loose. I was about to take them off. They're old. And I'm going to take that saddle out, and I'm going to sand it down, or I'm going to find a replacement saddle. I've got a selection of them over here. So this is part of my guitar practice. So I've got peg heads and all that sort of stuff. Timber for a shim, and I've got a whole collection of saddles. So I might hopefully find a very low one and put it in. But of course, ultimately, when your saddle gets too low, it starts to affect the performance of the guitar. Obviously, you're going to have less downward pressure on the top, and you know, a guitar can sound great in the shop because these saddles are pretty high from the factory, and this had a pretty good saddle height. But you can see now, before I'm adjusting it again, it's already pretty low. And this is where I think Eastman might have a good think about how they're building their guitars. I think particularly the fault and the potential issue is they've got what they call a modern slim taper neck. And so what that means is the neck's not getting thicker as it comes up the top. And my personal feeling is if you don't put some thickness in the neck up the top here, the truss rod can only do so much to keep that neck angle nice and straight. So that's lifting and causing that action to come up. And with a new guitar, this is probably 6 months old, to have to come and bring that action down is not at all good. Now, the other thing I'll just point out too before I finish this first part is if you look at this bridge, so what the saddle's sitting in, it's ebony, it's actually pretty low. And I had an Eastman E10D about 10 years ago, and that bridge was higher. And so Eastman, I think, in their design have brought that bridge down. So no matter how high the saddle is, you're starting off from a lower height. So they've probably done that to help the guitar's structural integrity so they're not putting so much down pressure. But you're already dealing with a guitar that hasn't got a lot of relief. Hasn't got a lot of height of the strings breaking over the bridge and the saddle. By way of comparison, just to finish, look at this little beauty, and I'm going to do a video on this guy. This is a Recording King, and this is the model. It's the Recording King 9 series, 9P. It's a plus, which is just had a few extras. It's got, the plus means it's got the mahogany laminated back and sides. But look, the point I want to make is, if you look at the saddle on this guy, the actual height of the bridge is higher than the Eastman Dreadnought. And I've also tweaked this saddle as well. But this guitar has got more height between the strings and the body than the Eastman. So it's a less conservatively built guitar, and this thing rings like a bell. So I'll talk about that later. So what we're getting, the problem with the Eastman, beautiful sounding guitar, beautiful tone, but when you pick it up, it's a heavy built guitar, and when you have a low action, the thing goes to sleep and you're really not getting that vibrancy that you want. And as the years go by, the guitar will ring out better, but I think Eastman are not doing us a great service here by building these necks that lift. And within a year, you've got your saddle down to a point which is very low and compromising the string break angle. Last point, this guitar came from the factory with what they call, with a little bit of, what do they call this? A string channel built. And this is what you do when the saddle gets very low. You actually file out a little channel so the string can break straight down past the saddle into the hole here. So they've already done that a little bit here from the factory. So that's my critique, but I'll get that done and I'll string it up and I'll give you a report on how it goes.